Well, Johannesburg is not the only part that's suffering water shortages. Parts of Soshanguve outside Pretoria also remain without water. It's after a heavy storm damaged power lines to the Zuikerbosch Water Treatment Plant. A former City and Tshwane Utilities MMC, Abel joins us now for more on the story. Mr. Tau, good evening and thanks for your time. Absolutely concerning what we're seeing, and I think what's been expressed by some of the residents in Gauteng is that one can absolutely not get by on a day-to-day basis without water. It's very, very difficult. Now, to have to do that for over 2 weeks really is just unreasonable. What is the situation in Tshwane, where we understand that residents in some areas have been without water now for over 30 hours?
Look, thank you very much for having us, and I think I'm obliged to say Happy Heritage Day to South Africans. I hope there was more to celebrate than just the day. But talking about the issue at hand, it really is sad. It's unfortunate and very worrying. You would remember that not so long, Tshwane was the hardest hit with a cholera outbreak, with 41 fatalities in the city alone. Now you can imagine that reeling from such, situations, we find ourselves where we are today. And yes, it is obviously a rainwater challenge, but it is exacerbated and made worse by the fact that the city is actually in tatters as we speak. I mean, you're talking about a city that even under normal circumstances is unable to supply the areas that have already been supplied with water tankers. The city has been, mourning a situation of a financial challenge that gave rise to the strike. And all of these things on top of it, now residents have to make do and make way to find ways to find water. It's just unfortunate and sad.
Let's talk about the fact that it doesn't seem, at least off the face of it, that there's been much contingency being put in place on the part of the 3 metros to respond to this water shortage.
Yeah, and that's the worrying part, is that we find ourselves in a situation where emergencies such as this one are not planned for well. And it's unfortunate, I mean, especially for Tshwane as the capital city, I believe that we should be leading, everybody when it comes to our preparedness for contingencies such as this. I mean, this is not the first time that we've gone through this. And what it's said is that these situations find themselves, in township areas where services have already completely collapsed in township areas, and now they have to battle. And you remember that this is where unemployment is rife and poverty is rife. So honestly, it is just said that you find ourselves in a situation where the city is not prepared at all. I mean, you see residents really having to scramble, but also what councillors that have said, before communities to make do and find ways to find solutions for communities. It really is unfortunate, and I think that we as a city need to look ourselves in the face and really start finding solutions as a matter of agency, because this cannot continue. And I'm saying this cannot continue because even when, they said reservoirs would be picking up, the reality is that they are not. And I am convinced that the situation will at least persist for another 2 to 3 days. And what will we be saying to residents who cannot afford to buy water? They are left to their devices, and chances are they are going to start drawing water from unsafe sources, which we have seen. And as much as some of these videos are being disputed, but reality is when people are desperate, they are forced to do whatever it is to survive the situation. And I'm afraid we are facing another catastrophe soon if nothing gets done soon.
Mr. Tau, you raise an important issue, and that's really comparing what we're seeing now to what happened with the cholera outbreak, because even there we had national intervention as far as the presidency's offers to try and resolve that matter. But to date, at least anecdotally, if you speak to residents of Hammanskraal and affected areas, their water situation has not changed. And this is despite the interventions. As we speak now, sorry to come in there, as we speak now, we still have commitment from the National Department of Water and Sanitation about coordinating efforts to intervene in this crisis and ensure that people will have water. Those meetings have been set up for the coming week. But that means that people will still be without water while these discussions take place.
And that is what is said about the whole situation, is that even some of us are of the view that the cholera situation gave rise because of the lack of water supply. You'd remember that at the time the city had problems financially, like it still has, and they throttled down the supply of water in Hammanskraal in particular, from a supply of water through water tankers from 7 days to 3 days, and that's what gave rise to the problems that we have. But what is even said is that even the national intervention does not seem to yield the desired results, because what you would have expected is that now that we have reached the crisis state, therefore, you'll be expecting that this will be treated as an emergency. And unfortunately, we are still talking about talks of when we will start doing something about the situation. And it is what is said about, the situation in Tshwane, is that there is no political will to see the issues that are plaguing our people being resolved. It's all talk shop, and obviously the blame shifting that continues to happen while ordinary people are suffering the consequences of the lack of decisiveness from politicians. And I'm hoping that as a nation, as we reflect time and time again, is going to get to a point where we are serious about who do we give the responsibility to take charge of our lives, because this simply cannot continue. But once more, I think we need to applaud stations like yourselves and the Fourth Estate in the form of the media, that we need to put as much pressure as we possibly can and make sure that we report as long as nothing happens. We continue to report on this matter so that those in authority will stand up and realize that time is not on their side anymore, and people have started to stand up for what is correct.
All right, we'll leave it there. Abel is the former Tshwane Utilities MMC.